fantasies. And women are driven by the fear that if I share my fantasies, I will lose connection with you. So if I'm fully integrated as a sexual person, you won't love me. And men are, if I'm fully integrated as a sexual person, you'll shame me. And the other piece is that we have a tendency over long-term relationships to parentify our partners. Pick up your socks. You never do the dishes. Becomes mom, right? Who wants to have sex with that? Men feel parentified, women feel like I'm living with my kid, I got another child now. And so that imbalance of relationships, we both start on that equal level. And then because of the task differentiation in relationships, we become parentified. One of us becomes the wiser advisor, one of us becomes the ingenue. And so that's part of how relationships begin to get desexualized. And the last piece is shame. For those of you who have religious backgrounds, I was brought up Catholic. And then when my mother got divorced, he could stay in the Catholic Church, but she was kicked out. And so there's a big message around sexuality and religion in my family, in my sort of cultural worldview. And if you think about where your shame comes from, think about where your parents' shame comes from. Steve Stasny, and I think in their new book, they talk about that affairs are not necessarily, this is part of the split off energy. One of the ways that sexuality gets split off is through affairs. And not necessarily now, the studies show, because there's something wrong with the relationship, but 80% of people have affairs because of opportunity. So if it's there, if it presents itself, 80% of people will say, okay. Now, part of that desire to have an affair, and this is hard to talk about in certain cultures, Italy, France, different places, where outside lovers are more common, more accepted than in America. I was in Italy, and we were watching a commercial that was running through the train station about a woman who has 5 different lovers, like in a day, and at the end she says, life's good. And I thought, that would never happen in America. She would be the whore. There's too much whore energy there. And it's so interesting how in different cultures, this aspect of affairs, outside sexuality, split off eroticism manifests itself a little bit differently. But in all cases, when the energy is split off from the relationship outside the primary companion relationship, it dissipates the energy. So it's not necessarily that you want to stop the affair, it's that you want to bring the energy back in that promoted the affair. Always, this is an exit philosophy that we have in Amaka. Always, when someone exits, you go back to when that exit happened, and always it's because they felt that the partner exited first. So when I work with a couple, and I have a couple right now where he's out at going to massage parlors and using escort services, and she's devastated, and we go back to the point where he began that, and he said that she stopped wanting to have sex with me. There was no more erotic energy in our relationship. So it's not a blame thing, but it's about recognizing that when the relationship begins to get split off, it will continue to be split off. And as we start to bring the energy back in by talking about sex, by talking about fantasy, by bringing those desires into the relationship, there's less split off energy.